So AOC, which Justin Jackson, which you had a interaction with her over Forced to Vote, she did an interview with the Democratic left, the Democratic Socialists of America. So this got published on March 19th, but she did the interview like in January 25th or something like that. So they sat on it for a while. And, well, I think maybe you're going to find out why. I wonder why. I don't know why. I can only speculate why. But here's what was in it, and it wasn't good. The question was, some on the left have looked at Biden's record and his differences with the Bernie wing of the party and concluded no progress is going to come out of the Biden administration. What's your view? Okay, ready? Hold on to your hats. She says, well, I think it's a really privileged critique. We're going to have to focus on solidarity with one another, developing our senses for good faith critique and bad faith critique. It's like blaming the people who point out that the living room is on fire for pointing out that the living room is on fire. That seems like that's a bad faith. We have to develop our senses of good faith critiques and bad. We need solidarity. We need solidarity with each other on class. We don't need solidarity with a president. She's talking solidarity with a political party. That's the kind of solidarity she's not talking about class solidarity or solidarity of workers or solidarity of progressives. She's talking about solidarity with the Democratic pro-war corporatist enemy of the worker party. That's what that is. Am I wrong about that, Justin?
No, 100%. Like we don't need solidarity, just with the Democratic Party just because it's the Democratic Party and it's not the Republican Party. And I think she's kind of fell into this, this idea, it's privileged to criticize and say, she's relating everything to Trump, right? And it's like, it's privileged if you criticize Biden and you criticize the American Rescue Plan, et cetera, et cetera. No, it's privileged if you think that bill and that the things that Joe Biden has done in the past, 2 months is some type of huge progress and huge step towards a better society and us actually catching up to the rest of the world.
Yes.
Right? Like that's privileged. To me, that's a privileged take. And if you're not actually on the ground seeing all the suffering and seeing, there's mass evictions coming, they keep pushing off the moratorium, but they're not giving people money. I see people tweet me all the time and they're just going through real hard times. And you're trying to tell me if I'm advocating for those people to get more, I'm operating in bad faith, right? Like, and that's where this really rubbed me the wrong way.
So there's more. There's a little bit more to it. So let's get into it. She then goes on and says, "We do not have time or the luxury to entertain bad faith actors in our movement. So this is like her saying my critique of her not doing Forced to Vote was violent. So she wants to silence critics of her and silence critics of the Democratic Party. That's what this is. She's doing it under the guise of some kind of solidarity. She's using woke language to protect corporate garbage. That's right. And that's despicable. And we're going to call that out here because this is a bad faith answer. This is not in good faith what she's doing. The bad faith actor here, AOC. For anyone who brings that up, we really have to ask ourselves, what is the message that you are sending to your black and brown and undocumented members of your community, to your friends, when you say nothing has changed? Well, the message you're sending when you criticize Joe Biden, what the message you're sending to black and brown people and undocumented people is that you're going to be fighting for them and holding Joe Biden accountable. That's what it says. And what does this say about you? That you're willing to use woke language and hide behind your identity to run cover for corporatist warmongering enemy of the people who aren't even fulfilling their own campaign promises. That's what that says.
Mm-hmm. And then let's not even talk about all the deportations that have been happening, the crisis that's happening at the border. And of course, neither party actually has a solution to that because neither party wants to talk about imperialism in South America and the reason why people are coming from Honduras. And it must have nothing to do with the fact that Joe Biden supported a coup in Honduras less than a decade ago. And then we're not going to talk about Medicare for all, which would disproportionately help black people, black and brown people, $15 minimum wage, which would pull a lot of black and brown people out of poverty. But we're not seeing any of these things. We're not seeing any of these things. So how are you going to tell me I'm a bad faith actor when I'm advocating for those people in my own community and your community to actually have, I don't know, to get treated like a human being and to actually get taken care of in the midst of a crisis? That's what I'm fighting for. Please tell me what you're fighting for. Please. Please tell me the tangible things you're using your coalition in the House to actually get. Because if you're telling me that the $15 minimum wage was the only promise, the only singular promise, which to me, one, I heard on Bad Faith Podcast, I heard Amazon workers talking about how $15 an hour, they're still barely scraping by.
Of course.
And we're talking about this is by 2026, and we can't even get that? We can't even get that?
So let me get your reaction to this tweet by Tamanisha John. She says that she would weaponize black people, immigrants this way is disgusting. For anyone who brings that up, i.e. opposition to the Biden administration, we really have to ask ourselves, what is the message that you are sending to the black and brown undocumented members of your society? Well, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And AOC so far have only moved in ways to bring people rightfully angry at both corporate parties deeper into the Democratic Party. This without any substantive material changes. So do you feel like she's doing that? Like, how would you, that she weaponizes black people and immigrants this way? What's your response to that?
Yeah, that is the Democratic Party, right? That's exactly what the Democratic Party has been doing for decades, is weaponizing not only the GOP being, a neo-fascist party at this point to say, oh, we're marginally better, so you have to vote for us or else, like Joe Biden said, you ain't black, right? She's kind of taken that language and kind of the ethos of that argument, and now she's taking it and pushing it onto her critics and the squad's critics and House Progressives critics, because all of this is excusing inaction. That's all this is. This whole interview is an excuse for inaction and saying, oh, anyone who's talking bad about us or criticizing us must be acting in bad faith because they don't agree with the strategy that we're employing, even though the strategy that we're employing has, you haven't seen any fruits of that strategy. None. Not even the one, like I said, the one singular promise we got from Joe Biden, which he did pretty much everything to make sure it didn't happen, but yet y'all still voted for the bill.
And I just want to remind people that being in Congress, as Ro Khanna said on this show, puts you in the 0.1% of the 0.1% of privilege and power. But it's privileged but I'm being privileged if I point out the awful thing that Biden is doing. I'm not a powerful person. I'm not the 0.01% of the powerful in this country. You are. I'm just a jagoff in my garage saying things that need to be said because people like you are selling people out and gaslighting us and using identity politics to shield corporatism from criticism. Go ahead, Justin.
That's right. What more can you say?
Okay, so here's another. Let me do another tweet then. Glory Jones says, AOC's DSA interview is filled with sheepdogging for a failed system, scapegoating black and brown people in order to gaslight for Biden, and some more gaslighting and gatekeeping. If the DSA weren't so up her ass, there undoubtedly would have been more pushback to this narrative managing. But no, there wasn't. And here's another from that interview. She says, they know that we are a threat, particularly because of the fact that I'm a movement candidate. When you never engage your movement to do anything, especially direct action, or to ask for your support when you're going to oppose the establishment, then you're not doing anything with your movement. Just like Bernie threw his movement under the bus when he endorsed Joe Biden and extracted zero policy concessions for doing so, including the minimum wage, which Bernie won't even make sure is in this bill, or the squad.
Yeah, and
acting as the public option. By the way, no one's even bringing up the public option. No one. And let me just, before I throw it to you, let me just say, AOC didn't force the vote on Medicare for all back in December in order to keep the powder dry, so she could fail again to force the vote on the $15 minimum wage. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, and just the fact that, someone like Joe Manchin or Kyrsten Sinema understands that, as being in that part of 0.001% of privilege, they can actually use their power to get shit that they want. But somehow those 23 people, that wrote kind of led to Joe Biden asking very nicely if he could put the $15 minimum wage in the bill. They don't have any power. They have no power. Those 20-some individuals have no power. It's just frustrating at this point because, look, I'm looking at the empirical evidence, right? What evidence do you have that Joe Biden's going to fight for a public option? Because all the evidence I see is that he's going to pour more and more and more cash, taxpayer money, into Obamacare, into ACA subsidies that are going to, like I know you covered this, that costs way more than just expanding Medicare. This is a sick, gross thing that's happening, and y'all aren't saying shit about it. In fact, you're going on Instagram and telling people that COBRA subsidies are good, and that's something we should be doing.
So COBRA
no. You can't be a movement candidate for Medicare for all if you're cheerleading for a program that's going to pour billions and billions of our dollars into COBRA just till September. Remember, it's just till September. I didn't hear anything about them re-upping that in the next next bill. So people, all of a sudden in September, they're going to have money to cover an $800, $900 just a premium, not to mention a deductible, co-pays, et cetera, et cetera. So at this point, I'm just tired of it. And there's no evidence to say that Joe Biden is going to actually go out there and fight for any of these things. In fact, the evidence shows that he's going to fight against it, and y'all aren't saying nothing about it.
And so you're saying that when you hear someone like AOC doing interview with the DSA, and she says that people should not criticize Joe Biden, we need solidarity. Does that make you angry? Does that make you outraged? How does that make you feel?
I mean, yeah, it's all those things, because I know that Joe Biden is not, he might tell you he's middle-class Joe, but I mean, there's nothing in any of these bills that is actually going to truly lift people out of poverty, truly actually strengthen the middle class that's completely disappeared. And so, yeah, I mean, I want you to tell me what substantive thing that y'all have fought for that's actually is a transformational policy that's going to last more than just till September or just till January. That this huge $2 trillion bill, what did we get out of this $2 trillion bill, most of which is going to go right into people's banks and then go right
to the creditors,
to the banks and to the creditors? What did y'all put? What's in this bill that actually I should be celebrating as a progressive, as a leftist person in this country? Please tell me what I should be celebrating, because I don't see anything.
There's an Easter egg. Didn't you see the Easter egg that's in that bill? There's an Easter egg in it. So if you get student debt relief, which you're not getting, won't be taxed. So we're not going to tax that thing you're not getting.
Right, and that's another thing with framing. It shouldn't be taxed in the first place. So that's not some type of gain or advantage, right? We're operating. If we want to use football terms, you're operating behind the line of scrimmage, right? Like the line of scrimmage should be the fact that you're just getting unemployment, right? Now we're talking about $300 unemployment. Oh, don't worry, it's not taxed. Well, the unemployment money is tax money that I pay to my government, so I get it back and then I'm taxed again.
Yeah, I know.
And we're celebrating that.
So if we can't criticize the president, who the hell can we criticize? But remember, the idea was vote for Joe Biden, then we push him left after the election. Well, now it's like vote for Joe Biden and then shut up after the election. And then when we get another Trump, then we can all pretend that's the problem instead of actually the neoliberal corporate. But I have to keep explaining to people that Joe Biden is further to the right than the most right-wing European politician. There's no right-wing Boris Johnson is not against Medicare for all. He's for it. Joe Biden would be an extremist in any other Western democracy. Joe Biden is a crazy right-wing extremist. And that's what she doesn't want us to criticize. Wouldn't it be way worse to pretend like Biden is the solution and then everybody goes back to sleep? Wouldn't that be the worst thing to do? Anyway, let me get through this. Here she says, I am Spartacus says, I agree. However, the word fail implies that she tried. If she tried to do anything, it was to avoid forcing those votes. Here's some more. I'm glad AOC and the squad didn't waste political capital on Medicare for all, using it on not getting a $15 minimum wage or 17 million less people getting a stimulus, $100 less on unemployment, and getting a one-time $1,400 when we were promised $2,000 was really worth it. Here's another one. Here's AOC. She says, here is the profound danger of what we just did in Syria. Now, this is when Trump bombed Syria. She said a mad king president with a majority disapproval of Americans just decided to bomb a nation without the constitutional requirement of a congressional approval. Democrats who take war money passed the laws allowing that. Well, that's Joe Biden. And now she's not going to say that about Joe Biden bombing Syria in the exact same situation without congressional authorization. She's not going to call him a mad king who's breaking all the norms. She's not. Now you're not allowed to criticize. So she's just a blatant partisan now, which is, I think, what's wrong with the country. AOC said with a straight face, Biden and corporate Democrats are totally reinventing themselves in a far more progressive direction. You can't lead a political revolution while telling everyone how great the establishment is. She has picked a side.
Yes.
Yeah, remember, I mean, that thing said unemployment was $100 less. It was actually $300 less than what Trump was giving people.
Yep. And remember what she told us to do to the Democratic Party.
And then we walk away, we're not going to get anything done. Nothing's going to happen. Democratic Party does not do more unless it is pushed. So we need to push them. And they don't like it. I think I annoy them, but but that is our job. That's our job.
Now, that's a bad faith attack. You can't ever credit. What are you talking about? Remember what she said this?
In what you said earlier, too, I wanted to go back to what you said about our left party. We don't have a left party in the United States. The Democratic Party is not a left party. The Democratic Party is a center or center conservative party. We do not advocate for, we can't even get a floor vote on Medicare for all. Not even a floor vote that gets voted down. We can't even get a vote on it. So this is not.
And now, if you want to do that thing she just complained about, you're considered violent and performative, and you don't know how politics works, and you don't have a strategy, and you don't know. But I'm just repeating, but no one said that about her when she said it. Isn't that weird? Here's what Ryan Knight says. AOC in 2020, the Democratic Party is not a left party. It's a center conservative party. We can't even get a floor vote on Medicare for all. AOC in 2021 refuses to force a vote on Medicare for all and calls socialists who criticize Biden bad faith actors. Biden's first military action with Syria strike. There you go. Hey, AOC never really said a word about Biden illegally bombing Syria. That's right, Jackson Hinkle. So, I can only find the silver lining is that more people are waking up to it now because it's so blatant. So the DSA, who she's a member of, that's the movement she's a part of. She says she's a movement candidate, and that's who interviewed her when she said that the bad faith attacks are coming against Joe Biden. Here they are. She said, if you attack Joe Biden, you're bad faith actor. Here's the DSA tweeting out, tell President Biden and Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas to stop criminalizing, deporting, and tearing apart immigrant communities. That's the DSA saying that Joe Biden's administration is criminalizing, deporting, and tearing apart immigrant communities. That's the DSA saying that. And what I said is, hey, I hope AOC calls out the Democratic Socialists for their bad faith attacks on Joe Biden. This is violence. So I don't know what else people need to see that AOC is not what she claims to be. And in many situations, she's using what she claims to be to give cover for the thing we're all fighting against, which is corporatism. And she's giving her cover for corporatism. As Chris Hedges said, they've all the squad, all the Justice Democrats, all the progressives elected to Congress have been emasculated, and they've willingly given it up for their career. So this idea that you can't be a sellout because you don't take corporate money is bullshit. As I've explained time and time again on this show, you can sell people out for anything, for any reason. I don't care if you didn't do the right thing for your own self or for your career or for the party or for the corporate donor or for whatever it is. If you don't do the right thing, I don't give a fuck why you didn't. You sold me out. And that's what the Justice Democrats did with Force the Vote. That's what they did with the $15 minimum wage. That's what they're doing with the COVID-19 relief. And that's what they're doing with the public option. They're not even bringing it up. They're selling you out at every chance they get. They're sellouts. And what you should do is stop donating to them. That's your power to hold them accountable. I want to see other YouTube hosts tell their audiences to stop donating to the people who are selling you out every time they get a chance. And until they do that, they're not serious about holding politicians accountable. Because you can scream and yell all you want, but until you fucking put a hurt on them, then you're just a bloviator. So when I hear you tell your audience to stop donating to your precious fucking Justice Democrats until they start doing the right thing, and then we can start donating again, I'll know you're serious. But anybody who fucking talks about the Justice Democrats and they're pissed off that the squad won't do the right thing, but doesn't tell you to stop donating to them is not being candid, and they're not serious. Would you agree with that?
How about we stop donating to them until they can tell us their strategy of getting a $15 minimum wage? That's all I want to know.
There you go.
If you need resources and help to do that, which you don't because you're already in Congress and you could force it in the bill. But if you need that, okay, I'm gonna need to know what's your plan to get $15 minimum wage. Because if it wasn't in the last reconciliation bill, it damn sure ain't gonna be in the next one because it's not gonna be one that's as popular and as many people are paying attention to. If you tell me it's that you're gonna get rid of the filibuster and do it as a standalone bill, well, you just had 8 Democrats vote against it, so it's not gonna get through that way. So tell me, what is your strategy of getting a $15 minimum wage? I don't know, before 2030, please. Because it's already popular. It polls really well. Everyone is for it, especially if they're not making $15 right now. So please tell me another issue that's more popular, that's going to affect more people more directly. And if you can't fight on the $15 minimum wage, something that's going to affect people's pockets right now and has approval on both sides of the aisle, then tell me how you're going to get something like Medicare for all or something like a public option or something like, I don't know, anything else that's probably going to be an even harder fight.
It ain't happening.
That's all I'm asking for. That's it. Game plan, please.
They don't have a strategy. They don't have a strategy to fight for progressive policies. They have a strategy to gaslight progressives to let them off the hook for not fighting for progressive policies. Hey, everybody, this is the part where I tell you where all our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then this is why I tell you to join our premium program and get extra content, but nobody's got a fucking job. So just enjoy the video.